let's talk about your background. Like, what's your story? You said you were a little bit into the insurance self-funded world. Now you're at Nice Healthcare. You're out of Wisconsin, right?
Yeah,
Where you live?
Packer fan.
How did you end up on this path? Like, what? Take me to this story. Not like the deepest story, but like, how'd you end up in healthcare? And maybe even tell me like whatever, something unique about you that most people wouldn't know. Something cool.
Yeah. So I ended up in healthcare. So I started my first like sales job was in financial planning with a company called Thrivent, which
Okay.
I'm sure you're familiar. They're super popular.
Yeah, I had 20 years as an advisor, so I just switched
Yeah.
over from 401k for 10 of those. But
Yeah.
yeah, I've been in that financial world
Yeah.
too.
So I was young. I was like 24 when I started that, and I didn't have like a rich network. So I was selling disability insurance, life insurance a lot. My first year, I was like the rookie of the year. But then I burned through my natural market pretty quickly. So I had nothing. I had a buddy who was selling voluntary insurance after that. So he recruited me to sell voluntary for an agency, just individual life disability through businesses, which I just found to really be my calling. Because like
Yeah.
I had no problem picking up the phone, or I learned to have no problem picking up the phone and calling 100 businesses a day. No problem. My first year, I opened up 40 new groups. They were small, like the average size was like 15, but opened up 40 new groups. Was rookie of the year there as well. And then, kind of 3 years into that, my regional manager, who turned into my business partner, were like, "We're not really solving a problem. Like the biggest problem that businesses are having is their health insurance, not their like disability or their life insurance or an accident plan, which is great. Like it definitely helps, but
Super important. Yeah, but
it,
not at
it
the top of the list.
not it's like not scratching the surface on it. And then we got more involved in. My business partner was using direct primary care because his wife stayed home and the shop we were at didn't have health insurance. So we used like a health cost sharing plan in direct primary care. So it's like, let's bring that to the marketplace. Let's sell Sedera and Zion to businesses, and let's form our own insurance agency or like brokerage, right? So very quickly we found out that model, direct primary care and health sharing, not a great fit for most businesses. They love the cost savings, they hate the coverage.
Yeah.
Not super good.
It's confusing. I've dug into some of those too. Yeah, it's like they love the idea, and then you get into the weeds, and they're trained to go the other route. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Because like the biggest part is like there's these pre-existing conditions that there's this waiting period for almost 3 years where they won't cover pre-existing conditions, which isn't right. Health insurance, you can't do that. So then we looked at ICRA for a while. Then we finally got landed with self-funding. We kind of were mentored by David Contorno and that kind of health
Rosetta.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, side. So then we started to self-funding, kind of year two of our agency. The problem was we were running out of cash. We had saved a bunch. We were getting some commissions. So I started doing cold calling for brokers to set meetings and kind of built this cold calling lead generation company while we were waiting for the self funding to pick up. And I found out I really liked that as well. So the last 2 years, so my business partner and we sold maybe 12 self-funded groups. I mostly just called, set meetings, and then ran like discovery and then handed it off to him because I wasn't willing to learn. Well, he was learning self-funding principles at a much quicker kind of learning.
Yeah, he was kind of into the nitty gritty stuff of it. You were opening the doors.
Yeah, exactly. But I love DPC. I sold a few hundred employees DPC just because it was easy and I enjoyed it. It was like a very tangible product. Made a lot of sense for people.
Okay.
So he took the agency, and then I've been cold calling for the last 3 years, and emails and like running like round tables for clients.
Sorry, that makes me think. I mean, what kind of size companies are you getting traction with that? We do a lot of that at USI. It's really interesting that that's the model still because I think it works better with the under 50 market, to be honest. And then when you get into mid market, 100, 200, like it almost goes the other direction where I feel like they're getting so many calls and they're just guarded that if you do get that through to them, they're just super bugged and annoyed that you called.
Yeah, that is my case too. But I called for, well, one thing that worked super well. Like just recently, I called for a company that works with hospitality companies, and they helped save $500,000 on one of the biggest hospitality companies in the country. Like everyone's gonna know their name. So I called and I just told the story, and I set 4 meetings. I think we had 30 clients, 30 prospects that we wanted to talk to. Set 4 meetings. The pitch was like, "Hey, we worked with this really big hospitality company. Drop a name. Saved them $500,000. In that process, we created a program for hospitality companies that we think is pretty cool. Not sure if you'd be a fit, but curious if you'd be open to me giving you a call back later this week to talk for 12, 15 minutes." Most times it's like, yes, send me an email. Or I think only 2 people are like, I'm not interested. But what happened there was it was a very targeted list.
Right. Okay.
30 hospitality companies that are going to know this other hotel group, and it's tangible savings. So when you get bigger, like having those stories and how you helped a similar company was really helpful. But yeah, cold calling, 500-person groups, talking about health insurance, you get shut down right away. What we found worked really well were these roundtables. So where we would invite CFOs, HRs of large. This company, this agency was focusing on education. So big school districts in Iowa, colleges in the Midwest, and we would get 12, 15 people on every month of talking about how to save money on their health insurance using direct primary care, or how to balance compensation and benefits. And we would have these great open kind of panel discussions, but kind of roundtable discussions with these heads of HR, heads of finance at these universities. And then the goal was, after that, the broker would take over and start setting one-on-one meetings to dig deeper into the conversation. So that process worked much better for the over 200-person group.
So you're calling to invite them to the round table, and they would show up to it, and then you'd have the broker there.
Yep.
And they just kind of naturally get to know each other.
Exactly. Yeah. But we had like a spotlight guest that would come on.
Okay.
It was either like a client of theirs or like a well-known, someone from Hy-Vee, something like that, to lead the discussion, and then we would have questions, and it was kind of open up for an hour. So it's like the thing that helps is like you're building trust and credibility on that round table. And there's other people, there's some peer influence there that, hey, I don't want to miss out on what some of my peers are doing. And if you do it right and you have like a strong guest speaker, or we don't call them speaker, it's like spotlight executive, people are going to want to come just to hear what that person did to help save money on their health plan, or the innovation they use to build a better health plan, keep employees, all that sort of thing.
Okay, that's interesting. I like that.
So that was 2 things. That was a lot, but do you have a really good story that you can focus on one industry, or if not, then the round table might be an easier approach.
I like it. It's super helpful, because I think there's a lot of good being done, but there's also a lot of just getting it in place and doing the little just reacting to things. And so there's just an interesting relationship driven decision making process that unfortunately has led to slower adopting of better, more innovative ideas, because I think there's a lot of good things happening, but getting someone to listen and actually get out of what they have done because they trusted one person.
Yeah.
It seems to be this battle that's ongoing that I've been super fascinated to figure out because they'll just lean on the opinion of one person that they've known a long time and trusted for years, and they haven't even looked outside that bubble. And it's crazy to me, because their employees are the ones paying that price.
Yeah.
So
have you ever tried to do like a consulting, like not like just be like a second voice, not the BOR, not the broker rep.
right, just like, hey, like, tell me what you're doing, and then just kind of give them free help. I mean, that, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm constantly trying to do that. Yeah.
I think there's some brokers in that Health Rosetta circle that would charge like a nominal fee, $150 a month, to be like their kind of
Yeah.
admin.
Kind of be on their team to kind of, yeah,
And
I
then
know
you
what you're saying.
slowly like drive a wedge, or they try to help out with pharmacy or some other piece, and slowly kind of drive a wedge in that relationship. I don't know if that's worked or not for what you guys are doing at USI.
I think the unique, yeah, we haven't done a lot of that at all. I haven't heard. There might be. I mean, we're 200 offices, 10,000 employees, but I think that the biggest differentiator that I've noticed with our team is that we're very open to collaborate across industries, across regions. It's very like, hey, we want to help versus I got this awesome idea. I don't want to even know about it because it's my competitive advantage, and I'm going to go and use it to everything for myself. Which I've been with other firms and I've seen of that firsthand, where
Yeah,
it's like internally they're going head to head, and it's like why don't we all want to win? We're on the same team, but that's not the case with a lot of firms, and so it's all leaning on that relationship. And so I think yeah, getting out there, and I'm leaning on more of the content because I just believe, regardless of wherever they're getting information to make their decisions, they're still looking at their phone, they're still scrolling, there still is a potential there to continue to remind them and give them free value. And so I'm trying to get some of the figure out what USI will let me share
yeah,
because we do have tons of data and we've created tools that I think make it basically instantaneous. I can look at across 12,000 clients and see how does this stack up or what could you do different, and that's not normal. That's not something I've seen other places, which is why I made the decision to go to benefits from 401k, all benefits, and then decided USI. It wasn't like, hey, USI's got an opening, I want to join the team. It,
yeah.
it was I I'm interviewing them. Like, and now I'm even more impressed every day with how much knowledge we've put together in a very easy way to explain.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So
Yeah, you think that data, being able to like do the data, do the benchmarking, that's a pretty big differentiator for USI when you're talking to those bigger groups, kind of that mid
it
market.
I think it's a if you can get them to listen, yeah, I think it's helpful for them to see like, oh, well, they're how are we stacking up, or what would it look like to switch to alternative funding and go self-funded versus staying fully insured. Like, I think there's just a lot of misinformation
Yeah,
because people tell horror stories about it instead of here's how you do it right, and we can show you if you're doing this and you even have a bad year, right, or you're high risk because you've got too many claims. Like, too many people are stuck in that fully insured model for too long because they're scared because they don't understand how it all works
yeah,
because they're leaning on that one opinion.
yeah. You're
So
right.
it's been helpful at least like kind of show them like, hey, you're a unique company, but there are thousands of companies just like you that we can show you what it would look like if you had 5 bad years. Each of those years you're going to have a tick up in your premium on your fully insured for the whole year versus we learned to manage that cost. We learned to really help employees navigate it. I mean, it all boils down to like, can your employees do a better job being consumers? That's ultimately what's going to lead to lower healthcare costs.
Yep.
And what I think is so unique about and I'd love to hear how you ended up at Nice, because like the idea of telehealth is not new, and I think most people have started to really adopt that, especially through COVID and everything. Like, it's become almost like, we used to think it's crazy, like Uber used to be crazy, but now it's just normal. I
Yep.
think the telehealth's that way, but now you're taking another step where it's like it's kind of a hybrid where we have someone local to do some of the things that normal telehealth couldn't do, but are very common.
Yep.
And so I think that's the next wave that we're going to see, is just a lot more people adopting that model.
Yeah, I think
So
so. I mean, I think consumers are slowly starting to understand like how to consume health insurance, right? Because, like you said, you have to be like we've had to talk to our wives about how to save money on prescriptions or office visits. The
yeah,
general population needs that too, and it starts with like brokers, like for real. Like, it's such a big job. Like, how do you teach people how to consume healthcare? Well, a really simple way is to make it not painful, but we have there's some health plans that they've built where If you go to certain doctors, you have a much higher deductible, much higher
Mhm.
copay. But if you go to like kind of the preferred partners or preferred places, there's no deductible, there's no copays. If you go to direct primary care, completely free for you and your family. You can keep
Yeah.
your regular doctor if you want, but there's a $30 copay, and you have to eat into your deductible. Of
Yeah.
course,
Incentivize. Yeah.
yeah, have some skin in the game. How I got to Nice Healthcare, I was actually prospecting to the VP of Growth, Jory Zunick, to sell like this service to over the summer, and he like floated this like at one point he sent me a text. I was like texting him like, "Hey man, we gonna do this thing or what?" And he's like, "Why don't you just come work for me at Nice?" I was like, "I'm trying to as a 1099 man, like just hire me." And then my buddy who was close with Jory uh, was like, "Jory's serious about like hiring you. Like it wasn't just like a tongue in cheek. Like he's looking for a growth executive." And I've always really enjoyed direct primary care. Like of all the self funding pieces, that's what I knew the best. I've used it. Like I was spending $180 a month out of my own pocket to have a direct primary care provider. Like my wife is a school teacher, she stays home now. We had a great plan, 750 deductible, a bunch of things covered. There's no reason to have direct primary care other than I could call up Dr. Noel and be like, "Hey, my son's finger looks messed up. Are we gonna be able to make it to the wild hockey game tonight, or do I go to the ER?" Or, "Hey, my son's throwing up blood on a vacation. Is he gonna be okay, or I gotta go to the ER right now?" Right. Both
Yeah.
times.
Someone that knows you. I mean,
Yep.
that's, I think the thing that's totally changed over time is that w- we're not known because we're just a number.
Yeah.
Because who owns the provider's business, and that's not always the case, but it's more and more.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's sad to see.
You got it. And it's like the convenience of it, knowing that I could shoot him a text or a call and he can help me decide if I need to go to the ER or if there's other ways to deal with it. And most, like, it's probably 8 times at least that he's kept us from the urgent care, like at least in those 2 years. So all to say, I love DPC. There's a job opening at Nice Healthcare. Jory kind of recruited me there, and to be honest, as much as my business started to shift from benefits brokers to like tech, more tech of the tech industry, cybersecurity, like, and it got really challenging to try to become an expert, not an expert, but like know enough to have good conversations with prospects in all these
Yeah.
vast different industries. And I was getting a little burnt out. I was like, if I just could focus on one industry, one job, and cold call for myself, like what would that look like? Uh, so it was just kind of like right. This ended up being the right fit at the time. Loved the DPC model. Wanted to just focus on one thing. Burnt out with kind of big tech. So I made the jump to Nice in December, and it's been really amazing. Like the work they're doing is awesome, right? Like
Yeah.
giving more convenient and accessible care to as many Americans as we possibly can, and we hear success stories all the time.
Yeah, so let's talk about that for a second. So the model is, and I think it's unique because it's not necessarily replacing the company's plan, right? They can be
No,
fully insured, self-funded, level funded. The funding mechanism doesn't necessarily matter. This is a first stage component that has a PPM, per employee per month fee.
yep,
That's a flat fee that covers, what does it cover? I mean, it's the telehealth, the
mhm,
direct primary care.
yep,
Talk more about that. Maybe your how you kind of explain it
yeah.
to people.
So really simply, like Nice Healthcare is a primary care provider that delivers care through virtual care and in person, in home care. So think of your normal brick and mortar primary care practice. It's the same model, just delivered in the most convenient way possible.
Without locations. So
Without,
you don't have physical locations that people go to.
nope. So the waiting room becomes a person's living room. It does.
Yeah.
They don't have to drive across town, wait an hour to be seen, and then get an 8 minute appointment, and then they don't feel like all their answers are all their questions have answers. So like that's the model that's changed. Like think of like Netflix. Netflix changed the movie industry or the renting industry by just making it super convenient to get at first, right, they started shipping discs directly to them, and now it's all streaming, but it's a similar model. So what it covers, so the $45 per employee per month, it covers that employee and all their benefit eligible dependents, spouse, kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it covers about 70% of everyday healthcare through virtual in-person primary care. Completely unlimited primary care visits, completely free to the member. They have virtual physical therapy, virtual mental health. We have a prescription drug program that covers 550 prescriptions completely free to the member in the plan, 35 labs that they do in person, in home, and then imaging if needed, x-rays, EKGs. And then if we can't provide care in any of those areas, then we are able to coordinate referrals with the patient to someone that's, right, ophthalmology or dermatology, whatever it is. We are able to do that. So that, like, in a nutshell, like, that's what Nice Healthcare covers in what they do. So it's for $45 per employee per month, $540 a year for a family. It starts to feel like a lot of care, like a really robust program to put alongside health plans.
Yeah, no, it makes sense because when you think about, and I want to make actual video about this, but when you think about it, most people don't think of it this way, but everyone's self-funded if you really,
Yeah.
peel back all the layers, right? Everyone is paying some sort of premium. Of course, the employers usually chip in for that, and that's kind of the second layer. The first layer is you're paying the premium and you're paying the deductible or the copay or whatever your plan design is. And then after that, the insurance kicks in. That's money that is being used that you gave to them and the employer gave to them until it hits a stop loss, which you've already been paying for that too, for those catastrophic claims. So, and then you're going to end up paying for it. Should you trigger the further up you go, it's going to make next year more expensive.
Yep.
It's just the easiest way to look at it, and it's a numbers game. And when you think about the bottom layer, like this is one that is the most common day-to-day stuff, sick kids, just random illnesses that are not super, risky, but you need something. There's usually a prescription. Now that's the part of it I think is really fascinating, is the prescription part, because it's all included. It's free. Like, and it's kind of mind blowing. So, but you have to know how to use it. And I think that's where the more you educate your employees, and then now we're seeing some of these carriers like Motive, for example, will give a discount because they know they're not going to have as much claims hit that first level.
Yeah, you got it.
So it's pretty powerful stuff. And I think we're going to see more of this start to happen. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. What we like to say is every visit that is done at Nice Healthcare doesn't trigger a claim on the underlying health plan.
Right.
So that you can protect that renewal, protect that self-funding. What's that money they save? What do they call that? The claims fund. Protect.
Yeah. Oh, you just like your
like
premiums that you're collecting.
Yeah, like
the trust account.
Yeah. Protect that. That's what I was going to say.
Right. I mean, it's the funding, all the money that's being collected on premium is being used for the care. But if the care is all handled by this, if you can get as much of your benefit or your health insurance to a fixed cost, right? And so the only variable is really the claims, but you're not having some of those claims because you've got it covered on this fixed cost. That's what leads to lower premiums.
Yeah, you got it.
And people, when they start to understand how their decisions impact their check, because right now they don't. They think insurance pays. Well, that just means your check will be smaller next year. That's all it means.
Yeah.
And the widespread understanding is just not there. And so
No, you got it.
I think we're going to see more of this type of as you guys continue to expand, which I'm curious your thoughts on what's the constraint. I mean, I know you've worked on larger cities and kind of expanded out to larger cities. How has that been a struggle? Has it been easy to manage? Or what's that like internally at NICE?
So I'm not the best person to ask that, right? That's kind of on the ops side. I'm just kind of the dancing monkey that goes in front of you.
He's just getting out in the wild. Yeah.
But for the constraints are it's hard to, it's a different model. So like our NPs like absolutely love it. So our nurse practitioners, our providers are going in home. They love it. There's autonomy. They get to get out of the house, and they're their caseload, like they're required, they need to see 12 patients a day. Sometimes that's a mixture of virtual, and that's a mixture of in-home, right? So like Utah, we have 50 providers that can provide care in Utah, about a half
Hmm.
dozen that are doing in person. So if you think about like the normal primary care world, like you're trying to like, I've gotten double booked for appointments in the past. Like I go to see my primary care doc, and he's booked two people in the same slot so he can try to just increase the number of patients he sees because that's how he increases the amount of money he's making. So there's this pressure from the hospital systems to just see as many patients as possible,
Yeah.
causes complete burnout. When I was in that self-funding world, we were starting like a direct primary care like forum every month. We would meet and whatever. But one of the docs was like, I left because I would have to hire. I'd be up until midnight every night charting, and I wouldn't get it all done. So on Saturdays, I would hire a nanny from 8 to 4 to watch my children so I could finish charting. Like unreal, like the pressure that they're in. So nice healthcare,
Wow.
12 visits a day they're trying to get to. It's not nearly as time consuming. There's not as much burnout, but it's a different way to deliver care that is a little unique. And NPs aren't hurting for jobs. like they can get hired anywhere. Like there's such a demand for nurse practitioners and nurse practitioners that sometimes it's hard to find a person to hire in the market, because what we can kind of go on is like we're competitive salary, but probably not as competitive as whatever Modem's health care. I don't know if they have a health care, but so those are
Yeah, they've got options.
and
I've
the
noticed that
constraints
with.
is like we put like a 30-hour bubble, 30-minute bubble around the provider's home of record, and that's where we try to keep their in-person visits to. So like if we want to go any further south in Utah, like we just expanded to Spanish Fork, we'd have to hire another provider that lives south of Spanish Fork. And to
Yeah.
do that, we would need to make it financially make sense, probably 400 billable employees at full service.
Right.
So
That makes sense.
those are the constraints for the in person. But virtual care, like if you think about telemed, a lot of them they treat acute care really well. Like if you can't do UTIs and cold and flus and pink eye, if you can't treat that virtually, like you shouldn't be a virtual care provider. Like that's kind of table stakes.
Hmm.
But if someone's like, "Hey, I need a refill on my diabetes medication," or "Hey, I have this concern about my thyroid," whatever, um, they get pushed back into the primary care model. Like, "Hey, go see your PCP." Back to that fee for service, back to the complexity, back to the inconvenience. They're pushed there with nice healthcare. If it's still just a virtual only client, we do acute care really well. We also can manage those chronic diseases. We can give prescriptions for those medications in those conditions. And then if you have in person, we can also do, compared to telemed, we also do physicals, and the imaging. So we start to like combine those things with the 550 drugs, with the unlimited in-person virtual care, with the virtual PT, with the virtual mental health. You can start to get a sense for the 70% of everyday care that nice healthcare can provide.
Yeah, and the model works great. I think it's super super intriguing, and to see kind of where it will continue to evolve and grow, and how some of these insurance carriers will react to it. And some of the larger ones obviously can take more time, but the smaller ones, and when you go self-funding, I mean, this is a great component when when you're in that model where everything's unbundled, where you can see like, hey, this is going to minimize our claims that
Yeah.
are tallying up and eating away at that pool of money that we're collecting to pay for them, which frees up more surplus. And so it's a win, I think, across the board. I think where some of the struggle honestly lies is just the communication and education and getting people to know how it all works and know how to adopt it and get them to adopt it. Yeah,
I think,
it's awesome. I think it's a really cool model. I think it's one that's going to continue to
yeah,
expand. So
yeah, I appreciate that, Jake. I think one thing that we're missing there is like educate them, help them understand. But probably the piece that's been missing, and it's always missing, is make them want to save money, or
yeah,
make them want to like you use all the information. It's like the old saying, like you're a pretty fit guy, so you'll get this. But um, people, there's not a lack of resources to be healthy and in shape and fit in this country. You go anywhere, like they'll know, but there's the lack of maybe desire of wanting to. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know if we share that piece. We probably just cut that out, but
Yeah, I can edit whatever.
yeah.
Yeah, but I know what you're saying. I mean,
Like, how do you get them excited and change that behavior? Like
that's the big question, honestly, that's been on my mind a lot, because the mindset is just not that way. People just they would they don't think they're the ones paying the cost, so they don't care. They just like they don't even ask. I mean, we're just taught not to even ask. We don't know. We don't walk into a doctor's office and see a menu. So that's the problem. We don't know what we're even buying and how it impacts
yeah.
what our premiums. It's so disconnected.
Mm-hmm.
And so at the end of the day, like, you don't really care until something an accident or someone gets sick.
Yeah. Until
and then it's like then your whole world stops.
Yeah.
Then this is the only thing that matters to you.
You got it.
And at that point, because you've been paying premiums for your whole life, basically, into this program, you just think everything should be covered. And yet, maybe you could have done some more to prevent this. Maybe you should have done the regular checkups that, and that's the whole other part of population health management that I think is it's starting to, I mean, it's always comes up and down as far as how people approach that and how employers try to scale that.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like, primary care physician, knowing your family, knowing what's going on, having some background is really one of the most effective ways to prevent a major catastrophic problem.
Exactly.
Because they're aware.
Yeah.
And they actually know you, and you're not a number to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's crazy. I have my neighbor that's the pharmacist. His wife is a physician, and I hear she just recently finished medical school and got into all this, and she, like, the amount of patients she has to see and the way that she basically just has to see them quickly and refer them out to a specialist, like, that's pretty much what she does a lot. And she hates it because it's a numbers game versus, like, really having the time that it takes to give good care and completely solve the problem. It's just, that's not her role. And I think that's a good story of how the medical or how the health insurance industry has kind of messed things up a little bit.
For sure. Yeah.
So,
well, they have classes on, is it RVUs? Like how to code patients, how to increase the RVUs super fast.
Yeah.
One thing if we think about how do we get people to change, the reason I asked about the eye insurance versus the medical insurance is because I knew that $375 was coming out of my pocket because I'm on a high deductible plan. Right? Like, so that's like back to what we said at the start, is like, if you have some skin in the game, if I don't figure this out, I get hit with this $300 bill that I don't want to pay. So let's shift it. And
so I think that's where it backfired. High deductible plans kind of backfired, where people don't get the care sometimes. So
they delay it.
Unless it's real bad, they delay it because it is tied to them coming out of their HSA or whatever they have to pay out of pocket. And so they just try to fight through it or let it, annoy them forever until it becomes like, this is a super serious issue that could have been completely resolved with a little bit something different.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a huge problem. And at the end of the day, like, getting people to change their behavior, you're right. Like, there's gyms on it all over the place, but how many of them, are full all the time? It's just, there's so many things I would love to do. And I'm in a different spot where my wife and I have been so dedicated. Just, it's like, we can't go a day without going to the gym. Yeah. And it's impacted our kids. Like, most of them get it and they're the same way, and it's part of their chores. They have to do some sort of exercise 30 minutes a day, but it's not normal. And like, they know it's normal because it's our family. So I don't know how to fix the problem, but I know that when little things pop up, knowing where to go and getting the care easier is going to be,
you're right,
has to be the future.
Yeah.
Why are we driving all over town to go to some building that makes it more expensive because they're paying rent there? Like, you're right. Like, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah, and that's where NICE does a really, really great job. right? Like start getting treated for things early on so they don't turn into bigger claims in the future or worse health outcomes. We don't
Yeah.
do mammograms, but I was reading a study that if you catch breast cancer stage 1 opposed to stage 3 or 4, there's tens of thousands of dollars of cost savings. I think treatment at stage 1 was like 15,000. Treatment at stage 3 was like 80,000. Stage 4 was like 150. Okay, it's huge, huge difference.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I was looking at that too.
no
We
worries.
have a slide in one of our presentations. Yeah, at
Well,
stage 0, stage 1, it's almost 100% survival rate, and the cost was like 60 to 80,000
oh, was it? So my number.
roughly.
Yeah,
It was high. It was. I mean, it depends on, I guess, how far along. But when you get to stage 4, there's only a 22% chance of surviving, and the cost is 180,000.
yeah,
So it's not about cost. At that point, it's not about cost. It's about you're saving someone's life.
yeah.
And there's, I don't care what the cost is. Like, you're gonna do it. But if you can get it earlier because you did what you needed to, and you had a primary care physician, I mean, it's a win across the board. And that's the part I think really gets people to think about it, because I know most people have some family member or friend that there's a story there. They heard where someone waited too long and didn't know.
Yeah.
And we need more of those stories out there to get people to take it more seriously and get back to that model of having a primary care physician.
Yep. Yeah,
But
right.
the biggest influence is the employer, which is being influenced usually by one broker. And depending on what kind of their motivation is and what their incentive is, may or may not be telling them some of the ideas. So it's a tough situation.
There was an employer that like we talked about level funding with. They're like, it's like I'm not interested in level funding. Yeah, you can show us cost savings the first year, but I know it's just gonna go way up after that. You just get 1 year of savings. I was like, that's not how it works. But it sounds like your broker is telling you that because they don't want to. They want.
It's work. It's a lot of work, and and I think it's the mindset of making money versus doing the right thing and knowing the money's going to come later. And I think that's two different mindsets that are out there that are constantly going against each other, and it's given the insurance industry a bad name, to be honest, and why there's so much hate out there, when it should be more directed to the people making the decisions of how your insurance is structured for your company. And if we had that demand pushed there, you'd see more change quicker, because they're acting in a way that has been directed by big money, big pharma, like lobbyists, and the laws in place are what drive people to do the things they do. And so it's a long topic. We could probably nerd out on that for hours, but this has been awesome. Well, we didn't even talk about football or anything, but we need to do that another time.
For sure. Well,
You're a big Packers guy, right?
Yeah. Who do you cheer for?
I grew up Buffalo, but that's because I grew up during the Jim Kelly days. But
Sure.
then my wife, 30 years ago, I don't know when we met, when I was 16, she was obsessed with the Niners and always has been. So she's pulled me into that whole world,
Well, I definitely,
which is hard. It's been a hard few years of.
I definitely don't feel bad for the season they had. I can tell you that for free. They beat us like 4 times in the playoffs.
Yeah, it was a great run. I don't know how it's going to go forward, but we're a big football family. I got 2 football players. I coach them. I've done 2 years. I got another year coming up.
Tackle or flag? Or what are you?
Yeah, full tackle. Yeah, everything. I mean, it's my 12-year-old and my 15-year-old. My 15-year-old's going to join the high school team. I'm not helping out there, but I'm still doing the little league stuff.
Yeah, that's great. I love it. Yeah,
I didn't play football, so I don't know. I know nothing. I just like
flag. So this was our first. Here we go. Our first year coaching. That's my son, and then my co-coach BMAC that we've stayed together for 4 years. But we got 4 flag football championships.
Wow.
Under our belt, so it's super fun.
Yeah, football is it's a whole different. Like, we didn't realize, because we've done every sport you can think of, everything but lacrosse. I don't know, we haven't had a lacrosse player, but football is like a whole nother level of family, and just you don't miss. You can't miss, and so you're all in for like 3 months of your life.
Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah, we've done a good job of creating like a community around the team, getting together. It's awesome. We've had a group of kids that stayed together for those 4 years. So I don't know if it's coaching. I don't know if it's the players. Uh, it's all encompassing.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun to see them grow and develop, and then get stronger, and then yeah, as they develop and they learn. That's all I care about. Like I maybe not. I'm competitive, but I'm not like some coaches. That's all they care about. They put their whole ego on like we got to win.
That's a lot. Yeah.
If the boys execute what we taught them, I could care less if we win. That's it. Like that's where I'm like, wow, they learned something, they did it, it worked,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. I love
You
it.
know, it's fun.
We are focused on championships in this house, Jake.
Well, good luck. Good luck. I
Well,
like that
only
idea.
for this reason, like not for ego, but if we're pursuing championships and we think about becoming a champion, who we become in that process is far more valuable than like winning a championship. Like we lost this past year, which was hard, but like the growth they had was great. But if you are, the expectation is like we're going to train like a champion every single day, we're going to become champions whether you win or lose. Like Kobe
Yeah,
is a champion, probably one of the best champions in the world. He's only won 6 titles, only 6 titles. Played for what 20 years, but just because he didn't like win a championship every year doesn't mean he's less of a champion. So it's just
yeah.
like that mindset. It's like, all right, let's get there. If we lose, fine. Um, but that's what we're striving
No,
for.
I like that.
So it's not. Yeah, I can tell there's a lot of ego that can be in youth sports, which is wild to
Oh
me.
yeah. I didn't grow up doing team sports. I was a runner, so
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
it's all time based, and I just proved to myself. So like my wife's the opposite. She did every team sport: softball, volleyball, basketball, all of it, and so I never had to rely on a team for my results.
Yeah.
So that's where it's like, oh man, like it's a very different dynamic
Yeah, it is.
from that. So I love my older boy's a swimmer, and it's amazing because I can relate to him a lot better.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it. Yeah. All right. Well, I should let you go, my
Okay.
man.
All right. Yeah, good chatting with you. Thank you.